Hello, and I hope this message finds you well. Um, I felt inspired just now to make kind of a crystallization or condensation of what I see as one of my most important teachings or understandings, which is that God does not care if you are happy. And I want to unpack that in a couple of ways because that's a very rich and sort of boastful sentence. Um, there's a lot there, and one might wonder, how can I claim to know something like that? So, the first thing I want to say, just as a preface, is most of our approaches to spirituality in this culture take for granted that A, we can make ourselves happy, and B, that it is deeply important that we do. We live in a very individualistic culture. I'm talking here about white Western culture. And we have phrases or concepts like self-care, self-actualization, which are radically individualistic and suggest that the highest aim we can achieve in life is flourishing as individuals, making ourselves happy. So you may have gone to a yoga class and heard, give thanks to yourself for taking time out for self-care. Or you may have heard of a meditation spoken of as mindfulness and as something that calms the mind. This is a conception of meditation totally neutered, totally divorced from the rich spiritual traditions from which meditation as a practice hails. And in the phrase, thank yourself for taking time out for self-care, we have a closed loop where the entire process begins and ends with the self. I am the agent in my life. My goal is to make myself happy. I have no greater responsibility than that, and I'm a success if I achieve it. This is how spirituality has been kind of reduced or packaged in our, again, white Western culture. So that's all preface. The second thing to unpack here is, what does it mean to say the contrary? God does not care if you are happy. And this, of course, begs the question which I introduced earlier: how can Jackson claim to know what God wants? Well, I have to clarify here, God is not a concept. God is an experience. And it is an experience we all have access to and all have within ourselves. So to unpack this, to demystify this a little bit, I'll invite you to think about what goes on in your body and what goes on in your mind every day, every moment of your waking life. You have thoughts in your mind, you have pictures, images, you might think in language, in terms of sound, so there's all of that synthetic content, and you have feelings in your body, which they become emotions when they get bound up in stories in the mind, but at base they are sensations in the body, right? I have tension in my chest, I have butterflies in my stomach, I have needles along my spine, and we make up stories about what these mean. So these sensations get combined with thoughts in the mind to become emotions. That's how feelings become emotions. Beneath all of this, there must be a template upon which thoughts and feelings arise. So if I have a feeling of anger, my ability to identify that there is anger comes from a contrastive experience, a basis for anger, which is more calm, more clear. It is the container in which anger appears. And this will be the same for any thought. This will be the same for any sensation. It's sort of like how you need a canvas upon which to paint. You can see the color blue on your canvas because the background against which it is contrasted is white. Another metaphor for this is negative space. All the content of our lives, all the thoughts, the emotions, the feelings, the sensations, they must be surrounded by negative space in order for us to recognize that they're there. We can begin to acquaint ourselves with this negative space. It's what the Buddha called the void, through things like meditation or yoga. We begin to feel this energy, this sort of neutral, colorless energy, which backgrounds our every experience and which flows through us, which gives us the sensation of aliveness, which is sort of the current of all of our experiences, the basis or the substance of all of our experiences. And this aliveness, this energy, this ubiquity is God. As soon as we become aware of it, we will notice that it is not only in ourselves, but in every other person, animal, or object we might encounter in our lives. So I'm in my car right now. And once I really am in touch with this energy, which fills me up and is the basis for my being able to experience other things. Other words for this are consciousness or spirit, and we might be drawn to different language depending on our tradition, on our given tradition, our lens or our vehicle through which we come to our spirituality. That's fun. That's used to be a peace symbol that I had hanging here, but a piece of it got broken off. We will begin to notice that this energy pervades and animates all things, even things that we might perceive to be inanimate, to be lifeless. As our awareness deepens and grows, we'll realize even my car is brimming with this energy, which is God. Even the trees outside, though they do not move and do not speak in human language, these trees are alive, are synchronized with the energy of God. The rocks, the sand on the side of my car is imbued with, or is an expression of, the energy of God. Now, how does this God energy feel? When we're identified with the human self, my mind, my body, whatever thoughts, feelings, sensations I might experience within them, these are the limits of my personhood. When we're identified in that way, it feels very important that we change our experience to make it more positive. I want to make myself happy because it feels good to be happy. It feels better in my body. A different way of putting this is that it does not hurt. And if my body and mind constitute the limits of my experience, that will feel of paramount importance, that I be happy. When we get in touch with, when we situate ourselves in this greater energy, so that we live in that energy, we feel a kind of warmth, a kind of light that funnels itself through all things. And the quality of this light, you may have encountered it in a person in the form of, say, if you had a very supportive parent, or if you have encountered a supportive mentor or a lover who really showed you new things about yourself. The quality of this light, this energy, is positive intent with indifference to the outcome. So this energy which flows through us, and again, we can access it, can get to know it, can feel it through meditation, through yoga, through other spiritual technologies. It wants the highest good for us, but is indifferent to what we do, is indifferent to whether we reach that highest good. It is like giving someone a gift and relinquishing them to do with it what they will. If it's truly a gift, I do not mind if they return it to the store. I do not mind if they destroy it. I do not mind if they give it to someone else. I have released my own attachment to, my own identification with the gift. This is God energy. And perhaps not coincidentally, this matches the description of God that we read in some ancient religions, where God has created human beings with free will and then left them to do what they may. God wants the highest good, the greatest possible outcome for human beings, but relinquishes them to do with their free will, with their agency, what they may. So we can feel this inside ourselves. The more we practice really any spiritual tradition, the more we deepen our commitment. Once we are situated, not in our body, not in our mind, but in this God energy, which transcends the body and the mind, right? This version of myself extends to all beings throughout all space and all time. It is limitless. Once we are identified primarily with that, we know that my happiness, just like my depression, just like my anger, just like my cynicism, my bitterness, my resentment, passes fluidly throughout my life. In a sense, even my own emotions are impersonal. They are energies frequenting my sphere of awareness, which shrinks and expands, also with relation to a mysterious process. Sometimes I feel very tight, very much in my body, in my mind, and that is the maximum that I am. And other times I feel that I caress and am intimate with the entire universe, and that the Jackson experience is just this microcosm of something so much larger. We realize that to God energy, it would be ridiculous to attach or to place weight on anything as ephemeral as an emotion. And so this is the sense in which we can say, God does not care if you are happy. Now, when we first hear this, this may sound to us nihilistic. I thought the point of life was to be happy. If all of my emotions, all of my experiences, all of my states of being are transitory anyway, and if consciousness, awareness, spirit has no use for them, this is the same as saying I can't take them with me after I die, then what's the point of being here? What am I supposed to do with my life? And of course, one of the reasons we fear reaching this precipice is that we think we will then off ourselves. We will commit suicide, right? If I embrace life's pointlessness, its nihilism, and I don't have anything to live for, not even my own happiness, then I may as well take myself out of the equation. So we fear really exploring the truth of reality in this way. But something much more beautiful happens once we are intimate with, in a relationship with, God energy. And that is that relinquishing our attachment to our emotional states, our mental states, our experiences, paradoxically, does make us more happy. Because now all of a sudden we are free. I can be depressed and that's okay. And when I accept my depression as okay, it is more likely to more quickly pass. The same will happen with my happiness. I can become attached to my happiness and I can try to maintain it through spiritual and other forms of practice, right? I have to meditate every day. I have to do yoga every day, or something more mundane. I have to run every day. I have to swim every day. I have to journal, or else I won't be happy. But once we let go of attachment to that form of happiness too, and it vanishes, and remember earlier I was talking about the difference between the canvas and the paint upon the canvas. Once we let go of focus on the paint itself, what reemerges into our awareness but the canvas? And the canvas is absolute peace, absolute love. It is, as I described God energy earlier, positive intent with indifference to outcome. It is this kind of warmth, this kind of love, simultaneously granting the external world or the human being, freedom. And that more and more becomes the stratum, the consistency in our experience. And the other things, the comings and goings, become this superficial layer that we watch play itself out almost like a video game or like a movie we're watching. This too makes our actions in the world more fluid, right? Jackson as a person is going to try to maximize his happiness and minimize his pain because that's what a human being does. And he is, after all, in this reality, a physiological being, an animal who's going to respond to stimuli in predictable ways. But in my human experience as an animal with desires and fears and so forth in this world, I can either fixate on and create consternation about every decision I make and every path I choose to pursue, or I can just allow it to happen as a logical progression of events that might happen the same way to a character in a story. Even if there was no consciousness, it might happen this way just because this is how the system is set up, like a chain of dominoes meeting themselves out. Once you knock the first one over, the end is sort of foretold. And so once we realize that there is nothing to achieve, that we can't succeed in life by being happy, which conversely means that we can't lose by being unhappy, that if we are unhappy, that is okay too. Once we embrace God energy and thereby relinquish our investment in the outcomes of this game, this virtual experience, we become rather observers or players of this game, and we simply get to enjoy the experience. There's a deep contentment, an intrinsic and irremovable contentment, merely from being alive. And I say irremovable because no experience can strip it from us, even the most abject suffering, even the most terrible outcome. I'm still alive. I'm still here to witness it. And that alone is the gift. So I shared a lot in this video in a short time with great enthusiasm and excitement because, again, I feel it's a very important teaching, paradoxical and impractical as it may be. So as I close, I just want to invite you to consider, in what ways are you currently invested in and trying to manufacture or manifest your own happiness? In what ways do you hold attachment to that outcome? In what ways are you straying from God energy? And what might your life look like if you let go of those predispositions, of those calculations? And if you allowed life to be simply what it wants to be, what this benevolent intention with relinquishment of outcome wants your life to be, and indeed designed it to be. So I'll just leave you with those questions, those thought experiments, and thank you for listening, and I hope you have a blessed day.